outline the process after the deal is done of what the expectations are going to be so people can plan their life and understand what they're stepping into.
Know your fishing hole, know who your ICP is, and more importantly, it's okay to morph and to change with the times. Don't keep your head down in the sand. Keep your head up.
They have to know that you're there to support them. This is not a transaction. We're here for support because people need the support for the implementation. And when they feel that they can deliver on what they just purchased, the chances of it going through is really high.
Welcome, everybody, to the Business Lunatics, where four fearless entrepreneurs are discussing crazy ideas and wild approaches to basically take your business from here to there. And we dive into a multitude of different challenges, and that's why we're a bunch of loonies.
No fluff, no BS, none of that stuff either.
Exactly.
So what's our topic today there, Frederick?
Let's talk a little bit about the difference between professional services sales and trade business or trade services sales, because the approaches are very different, because the industries are very different, but the sales process is different, but then there are similarities that carry over in the sales aspect. I'll start off. For example, when you're dealing with professional services, so let's say you're a law firm or you're an accounting firm or something like that, somebody's coming to you with a need. And that's usually, how that approach. So the approach from a sales perspective is you're providing a service because someone researched, either they found you online, they got a referral or something like that. So now they're already engaging you. You're not necessarily prospecting for a new customer. Where in a trade services, it's a little bit different. You're looking for a new customer because you're looking for somebody that needs a new roof. You're looking for somebody that needs to have new windows put in the house, etc. So there are two different approaches from a marketing perspective and a sales approach.
There could be a little crossover as well, because someone that's got a hole in the roof, they're going to go look for a roofer just because of a circumstance. So there are times when there is crossover between the two different markets.
Right. And the other thing is when you're engaging with, for example, in a trade services business, a lot of times it's a conversation that you're having with the homeowner. So if you're, for example, you're doing plumbing, you're doing electrical work, you're fixing a roof, you're putting in new landscaping, you're fixing a garage door, whatever those aspects are, a lot of times the sales process is either they've called you for a problem, they have an issue, the garage door is not opening and stuff like that. So that sales pretty much done because if they've found you and you've got a great reputation and everything else, and you respond quickly to that inquiry, the first one that responds typically gets the deal. And so when you come out, part of that aspect is building that relationship with that customer because of the fact that you can turn around and get potentially other opportunities that are there for you to uncover with that business, because you might do garage door repair, but at the same time you might find out that their garage door opener is old and they should probably get replaced. So you can do a lot of upselling opportunities for that area.
What do you think, Rochelle?
I see it a little different. I see that they're very similar in terms of style. First of all, when you're dealing with professional services, at least today, they really need more. They need tons of visibility because it's become a commodity. If you're an attorney, you're one of 4,000. That's number one. And the other thing is, there's a lot of people with professional services. They're looking for AI so that they don't need to go to the attorney. So they're thinking that AI can give them the groundwork. So instead of 5 hours of attorney work, you only need an hour. They can just do the contract and call it a day. So I think you need more visibility. And what do I mean by visibility? Visibility, a lot of people are doing great when they are either a guest on a podcast or they have their own podcast. That's one way of visibility. Newsletters have been around for God knows how long. And again, it gives you the visibility. You may not even open a newsletter, but the point is just that you see their name in the subject line. And so, and if they have a startling, like, oh my, like, are you ready for? And then then I look at it and go, maybe I'm not ready. The point is you have the name in front of somebody all the time. So I think in that regard, in order to do the marketing, it's constant and based on your visibility, that creates trust and that creates moving a relationship forward, although it's only an online relationship. I think that the trades they're not quite as I'm going to say on tech. They do a lot of advertisement. What I see on all sites. I mean, I see advertisements morning, noon, and night, but I don't think they're going the same. I never got a newsletter from a plumber. I never got a newsletter from somebody that
No,
blinds.
they're relying on referrals in the marketing.
It's more word of mouth. It could be a lot more regional, unless you're really doing commercial work. If you're doing the plumbing of like the World Trade Center, that's a whole different ballgame, or Freedom Tower. So again, the approach is similar. The idea is, where do we create visibility? Our visibility, whichever platform you choose to do it in, I think over time creates trust. When we are visible, I like us all to talk about what's the problem that we solve, so that somebody can say, you know what, I've got that problem. Let me give them a call. Not speaking generic. The more generic you are, the more in trouble and the more transactional you are. When you talk about your business, you know my line. Are you storytelling or boring telling?
Boring telling.
You just tell me a very specific story. So, for example, New York recently, we had an 18-inch snowstorm. I mean, like, hello, who the hell had that? So imagine if you're doing plumbing, say, you know what, I can't tell you how many people called me, their pipes froze. They had this, whatever, and then we were prepared in advance. We were able to go through 20 inches of snow. Now, that's going to tell me these people really know what they're doing. So again, your story elevates your level of expertise, and we've got to be visible. Whether you are a professional services or trades, we've got to be visible. That's my
I'm,
take on that one.
I'm going to go with you got to know your fishing hole. You got to know where your people that would want or could use or need your services or products or what widgets or whatever it is you sell or do are. And if you're fishing in the wrong fishing hole, you're probably not going to get a lot of bites. So that all goes part and parcel of knowing where they are and then giving them that type of advertisement in how they like to consume it. These days, people listen to podcasts. The old days, people didn't listen to podcasts. They watched the video. Before that, they read a newspaper. We had the Reader's Digest. I'm really dating myself now. Look out. But, I think knowing your fishing hole, knowing who your ideal client profile is, we've talked about that in the past. And then, really like for me, it's on LinkedIn, it's workshops, it's social media. That's where I'm reaching my people. It's some networking where I get some actual COIs or centers of influence and referrals that way. But for me to send out, to everybody, hey, I'm your AI guy, call me to come to your house and teach you AI. A is not really my business model. I'm not B2C, I'm B2B. And B, even if I sent out that same marketing piece to a company, they're going to look at it like, what kind of AI guy is sending out marketing pieces on doing AI? Such a touchy subject on governance and data and ethics and security that, it's not just an everybody can do kind of thing. You really want a professional,
Sure.
you know?
Sure, but we're kind of deviating more back into prospecting and marketing, and I'm talking about the sales approach in itself, because there's two different aspects. That is finding the business and developing your reputation, everything else. But the other part is, what is your sales style and sales approach? So when you're dealing with customers, as a salesperson, you need to know personality types. So you need to be able to look at whether they're a driver, they're an expressive, they're an amiable or analytical. And now you've got to be able to switch your personality type to match them. So now you're mimicking them. and pacing them.
Mhm.
So that's part of developing. So that's how you start developing the relationship with that individual. And whether it's a professional service or a trade service, you still got to build some form of relationship with the individual so that you can actually close the deal. Because there's times where I've had people come by looking to sell some stuff, and I've sent them walking because of the fact that there was no connection whatsoever. So, we've got to look at, we've gotten into a bit of where things are become transactional. If you look at the software world, which is my background for decades, in the days we used to have to do a presentation, understand what the company's challenges were, and then present how our software would solve the challenges. Today, you can go to any website, look at a software application, get a 14-day free trial, and give it a whirl. Now, if you get frustrated within the first hour of playing around with the software, you're out of there. You're gone.
Yeah, you're
And
done.
if they didn't engage with you, if they didn't say, "Hey, Steve or Rochelle, thanks for checking out our software. If you've got any questions, we're available. We're here to help. And let's schedule an onboarding. Let's schedule a demo so you understand the stuff." I've had those approaches, and I've gone with that platform because they've engaged with me. So there's two different approaches in the actual sales process, that because sometimes people aren't ready to make a decision on the spot. They may make it 2, 3, 4 days later, or a week later, or 2 weeks later, because they got a 14-day trial. You can't just let that disappear. You've got to engage with that people
It
periodically.
depends. It really depends on the industry you're in, the clients that you serve, the products and services that you offer. Take like executive coaching, business coaching. People don't typically, A, want to admit they need the help. A good portion of them. Some do admit it, but most don't want to admit it or admit that they have dysfunction amongst their executives. They just, "Oh, I can't see you." Or they have partners and family. And when you got family together, forget it. Then you got to deal with the personal side as well as the business side. So that's a whole another sales cycle role that you'd have to deal with versus if you're selling plumbing and they got a plumbing problem and they call you, you get them first and boom, you're in. So again, it's about like knowledge is power, knowing the scenario, knowing where you fit in it, what problems you solve,
And the
what
approach you use.
the approach you use, being there when they call you. It's about all of that.
Right.
It
One thing
encompasses
that I've
more.
also find is that people get really caught up in their process. They'll bore me. Let me tell you, Rochelle, how I do this. And by the time they get to like number, who the hell knows? I want to hear the result. The process, I couldn't care less. Yes, there is a process. I hope you have a process, but what's the result that you're going to stand by? And sometimes not only do I want to know the benefit, but when we are selling, we want to know what's the benefit of the benefit. Let's take it even further down the road. Yes, I'm going to make more money, but okay, so now what? Now, don't, and here's what there's so many people that say, Rochelle, I'll take this over so that you could spend more time on doing what you like doing. If I hear that one more time, I'm going to smack you in the head. Don't tell
My
me.
favorite line. Come on.
It gets me. It's the most boring. It shows you have zero creativity. I mean, it's like you're a robot. Don't go there. Go in, understand what my issue is, and tell me, Rochelle, if you do this, your ticket to Asia is waiting for you. Okay, you're specific. You're dealing with me. Don't tell me you can do more of what you like, or I mean, all this generic commonality gets me nuts. The biggest one, and I'm telling you, people that are in marketing, this is the worst sales thing you can ever tell anybody, is when you are speaking to your customer and you're representing a creative something. And when you tell somebody, I think outside the box, you just proved to me you don't think, let alone any box. You're using the most common, ordinary expression in the history of expressions, and you're promoting yourself as a creative. I don't think so. So we've got to be really clear of the language that we're using. Does the language express our high level thinking? Does the language express the result that we're standing by? And does the language connect with the person on an emotional level? And your vocabulary is really important. Do not use common, boring language to get your point across. And I'm pretty big on that one. I've seen somebody say, are you in pain? It's very different than you ask if you in the health field, are you in agony? Big difference. Your approach is different, your result is different. So I really want somebody to think about your sales process. What are you saying? Do you represent what you can stand by? Do you represent what you understand? What the person is paying you? They're paying for the result that you can promise to them based on working with you. So
it's also going to expand upon that, because once you do that, the other aspect of it is you got to create the visualization in their own mind of the outcome that they're looking to get, and where the happy thoughts and where they're going to be going, so that you're solving the problem and they can see where they're going to be down the road, because that's what's going to sell them.
That is to say, imagine finally being able to.
Right.
Yep.
Oh, I guess
one of my favorites. If you could wave a magic wand, what would your life look like? And that's you're giving them the permission to dream about how cool would it be if this wasn't a problem and everything worked properly. And Steve Ferman solved it for me.
Yeah, well, my wife is in the other room selling hearing aids to people all day long, and she's one of the top salespeople. One of the things she'll do is listen to all their challenges. What is it? What kind of work environment are you in? Are you at work? Are you going to, network clubs? Are you retired? Are you going out with family and friends at the restaurant? You're not hearing. And then all of a sudden, now imagine yourself going back to that restaurant and being able to hear what everybody is saying without straining or looking like you understand, but you really don't understand what's going on. And so she paints the outcome. And a lot of times they're starting to buy because they're starting to say, yes, that would be great. And that's the other secret in sales, is you want to get the customer to say, yes, they agree with it. They can see it. They believe it. And it's everything else, because now they're selling themselves.
They're invested.
And now they're looking more closely to move forward. But still, that doesn't guarantee the sales. We talked before we started recording. We have all indications that all is going well. And all of a sudden, life gets in the way, and they come up with some cockamamie reason that they've got to delay it. There's this issue, there's that issue. And that's where we talked before. Follow-up is very important, because even though you verbally they've committed to moving forward, you still got to follow up and follow up and follow up, because life gets in the way.
Exactly.
People get buyer's remorse. Oh my God, I'm really going to have to commit to this? You mean I'm going to have to now do some work to make this thing happen? I don't want to do that. I'm lazy. The one guy I met with last week, he said he procrastinates. He knows he procrastinates. So I know that I've got to be on top of him, to chase him, to keep him accountable to get this thing done.
This is interesting when it comes to sales. I never thought of this. Somebody brought something to my attention recently. The two biggest excuses that people have is I don't have time and I don't have money. Okay, those are the two biggies. The other one, which I never paid attention to, is, does the person have the energy? Do they have...
That's important.
Do they...
The drive, yeah.
Do they want it bad enough?
Do
they want it bad enough?
What you need to do and what they need to do. Do they absolutely have the physical energy? And then with that, hand in hand comes the motivation, because a lot of times when we're doing something, we're the agents of change, and people resist change. So do they have the motivation to overcome the hump where you want to stay the same because you don't want to deal with change? And do they have the energy to really make it happen? There's so many people that are dealing with health problems. They're dealing with family issues. You've got a grandmother or a mother that's, 90 and requires a lot of your time and attention. There's so many people today, unfortunately, they're in the midst of like a horrific divorce. I mean, I'm dealing with somebody right now. She's going through one of the most horrific divorces. And for her to stay focused and on her business is beyond challenging.
Yeah.
How do you go to work when you're in a rage? So that has something. Then I have another client that was embezzled. Now what? It was an internal employee that walked off.
You got all the good clients. I think I need some of your clients.
But it goes the same thing if you're dealing with a large corporation and they've got a budget and everything else, and all of a sudden the budget gets changed and everything else, or the project gets pushed down because of some executive manager says, you know what, we're going to push this out
Vendor doesn't
because of
deliver.
right. And so now all of a sudden it gets pushed out 6 months because another priority became a higher priority. And so, there's things that are out of your control in the sales aspect that, as you mentioned, Rochelle, and as I'm mentioning here with the corporate aspect, you still have to stay engaged with that because it doesn't go away. Because once the opportunity represents itself, if you're the one that's been staying in contact with them every so often, you're the one that's going to get the deal.
Yep.
Well, exactly.
Right.
But what do people also really, what do they want? What makes the change when they're purchasing something? In my book, the people want to know that they're being supported, and something comes up, you're going to be there for them. They want the accountability because on their own, they may not do it on their own, and they need support in the implementation. If it was easy, they would have done it already. So, what is it that when we are selling our services and speaking about our services, that we are creating that level of comfort that they know they're going to be supported, they know we're going to support them in the change, and they know that we're there when things get a little funky because implementing it on their own is over their head.
And what's your differentiator, especially if you're in a real heavily, loaded market like legal, for instance, or roofing, whatever, what makes you different? Why should I pick you over the other person? I think that's it.
Well, and to go further to complement what both of you just said, is actually painting the story of what's the process after the decision's made. Because at the end of the day, that's really the sale. The paperwork part's the easy part. I mean, it's complex, it's time consuming and challenging, but the sale is everything that happens after the deal is signed. So if you can paint the picture of the implementation, if it's a technology product, this is how long it's going to take. These are the training things that we need to do and everything else. So they understand the path. Like my wife will talk about hearing aids. We're going to have you go through. It's a 45-day trial. We're going to set you up with the audiologist. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. These are the steps that are going to take place. So people know what they're stepping into. And so if you have that roadmap laid out, that gives them a much more comfortable position to make the decision to move forward because they know what's coming up ahead versus thanks for the deal and I'll send you an email.
One better you could do is if you are a B2C provider, you can actually have AI help you do a transaction live right through your cell phone. Take a credit card, you could take, an ACH, you can do it all right then and there. So while you got them in the hot and they're in the mood, yeah, I want to buy it. Great. Let's take care of that paperwork right now. Let me pull up your
It's the
agreement.
best thing you
If
can
you want to
do.
need some time to look at it, credit card, however you want to pay for your first deposit, whatever.
Yep.
Then you really
So
got
how do
them
we want
better.
to wrap up? What are our takeaways for today? Freddie, what's your takeaway?
Takeaways, just what I just said, is really outline the process after the deal is done of what the expectations are going to be, whether it's a roofing, what's going to happen with the roof, how long it's going to take, what's going to be involved, whether it's a lawyer and you've got contractual paperwork, you're going through a divorce, or you've got a business litigation going on, what's going to be happening so people can plan their life and understand what they're stepping into.
Steve, what's your takeaway?
Know your fishing hole, know who your ICP is, and more importantly, it's okay to morph and to change with the times. Things are, times change, seasons change, and so do people's buying habits and requirements and circumstances and everything else. So just be aware of your surroundings. Don't keep your head down, head in the sand. Keep your head up.
And Rochelle?
I don't know, I'm going to go with a little bit with what Freddie said. You've got to prepare somebody for what the process is when they do go forward with the sale, and they have to know that you're there to support them. This is not a transaction that, here, once your credit card is gone through, we'll never speak again. We're here for support because people need the support for the implementation, and when they feel that they can deliver on what they just purchased, the chances of it going through is really high.
Yep.
There you
And
go.
with that, we'll end another session of Business Lunatics. And you can catch us in the next episode where all four of us go into a multitude of different conversations about growing your business.
Subscribe, like, all of that good stuff.